Technology is changing business faster than any other outside force has in the history of mankind. So what does the future of work look like? Well, Andrew McAfee,
I am a principal research scientist at MIT.
thinks he knows.
The biggest thing that I think has changed, and the biggest thing that I continue to get wrong, is to underestimate the scale and the pace and the scope of technological progress.
McAfee made waves with his first two books about the intersection of machines, technology, and business, and his newest book, Machine Platform Crowd, argues that an entrepreneur needs to realize the cold reality is that data and technology, and not intuition, has the upper hand in a lot of decision making. So let's start with machines.
If you are starting a new company, and your mental model of what minds should do versus machines is the same as it was 5 years ago, I think you've got a harsh realization coming.
Let's start with the broken practice of the job interview. For decades, it's been thought of as extremely personal, and if
The candidate reminds the interviewer of the interviewer, that candidate is much more likely to get a job. So what some leading organizations are doing is really flipping that around. What they do is ask the interviewers to ask a consistent set of questions and give something like numerical rankings. And then they take those rankings, they average them out, and those scores become really valuable in deciding whether or not to hire a person.
But that doesn't mean that humans will be left out in the cold with machines and data just taking over.
Humans still have the overwhelming advantage in good old-fashioned common sense. If you drop a block of wood, it will fall to the floor. If you drop a balloon, it won't fall to the floor. Teaching common sense to machines has consumed more than half a century of the work of extraordinarily bright people. We have very, very little to show for that.
So you have machines and data helping make some of these big decisions. Then you have platforms like Uber.
All they have is an app that sits on a phone, matches supply and demand across this two-sided network, grows like a weed. Platforms tend to scale very quickly, very easily.
And digital platforms like Netflix, Airbnb, and Seamless are coming into an industry
And just kind of taking over all the value, even in a great big market. What the great platform builders do is they see different markets, and then they just go layer a very thin platform, a very thin digital layer on top of an existing real-world industry, and really interesting things start to happen.
So now an entrepreneur has its machines, it has its platform, but now it needs to scale, and that will be done by harnessing the power of crowds.
The reason the crowd is so powerful is that somewhere out there, there are some people who have exactly the knowledge, the expertise to solve the challenge that you're working on. When I think about machines, platforms, and crowds, and the opportunities to bring these technology-fueled developments together, we're just getting warmed up with what we've seen so far. So the next generation is going to see a whole lot of disruption, a whole lot of value creation, and a whole lot of benefit accruing to customers around the world.